The candle was still unlit in my hand when she said it. Not directly, not in the heat of an argument. That would have been easier to process. No, she let it slip like she was brushing lint from her sleeve. Her words casual but sharp enough to cut. "This is sad." "You're sad," she muttered, almost under her breath. I hadn't even placed the candle on the cake yet. I had just walked out of the kitchen, clutching it between my fingers like a tiny, hopeful torch. The cake itself was store-bought, lopsided, slightly crushed on one side, much like how I felt inside. Still, I thought maybe it would mean something. She didn't laugh at my awkward joke about being 1 year closer to irrelevance. She didn't smile when I pointed out the old playlist I'd compiled from our early dates, now playing on a stuttering Bluetooth speaker. She just stood there in the living room, staring at me as if I'd personally offended her. "You know, not everything has to be a whole show," she sighed, slipping off her heels with a groan. "You make everything feel like a funeral." Her voice sharpened, rising just enough to land the final blow. "God, you're exhausting." It wasn't the words themselves. It was the way she said "you" like it was something broken she wanted to discard. I didn't argue. I didn't speak. I just stood there, shoulders slumped, holding the unlit candle. She must have seen me sag under her words because she suddenly sighed again, like I was making her tired just by existing. "I didn't mean it like that." "I love you," she said flatly, like it was an obligation. I should have felt something. Relief, anger, gratitude. But I just stared at the candle, watching a bead of wax drip onto the floor from its bent side, hardening instantly. She went upstairs without another word. But I followed her. Not because I wanted to confront her. I didn't even know why at first. Just something about the way she said, "I love you," made my gut twist. Felt rehearsed, like she'd practiced saying it for someone else. I followed her quietly, heart hammering, steps silent on the stairs. I heard her laughter first. A sound I hadn't heard from her in months. "Yeah, he actually bought a cake," she giggled, her voice light and full of life I hadn't seen in ages. I froze by the half-open door and pulled my phone out, fingers trembling. I hit record. "Same as last time," she whispered, her tone shifting into something darker. No, he didn't suspect a thing. He looked like a kicked puppy. "Tomorrow's good. He's working early. Come around 10. Use the side door. Same as last time." Those words detonated inside me. A floorboard creaked under my foot. "Hold on," she said suddenly. I fled, retreating back down the stairs, pretending to take the trash out just as she opened the door. I caught her watching me from the upstairs landing. That night I didn't sleep. I sat alone in the laundry room, playing the recording on a loop. Same as last time. I already knew what it meant. This wasn't the first betrayal. My birthday wasn't a celebration. It was a smokescreen. Dawn, I made my decision. I wasn't going to scream or beg. Instead, I recorded my own message. "I know you don't love me anymore," I began, my voice cracking. I admitted everything. My years of denial. My desperate hope that consistency and quiet love would be enough. I saved it to an old USB drive and slipped it into her jewelry box, tucked beneath her grandmother's ring and a note from some ex-boyfriend she once said she kept for its poetic value. I spent that morning pretending. Coffee, feeding the dog, kissing her on the cheek. "You're up early," she mumbled. "Didn't sleep well," I smiled. At 8:20 I grabbed my coat and keys. "Got that early meeting? You'll be home all morning." "Yeah, just catching up on calls," she said. I nodded and left. But I didn't go far. I parked down the street and waited. At 9:58, the black SUV pulled in. Same man from before. Confident, casual, walking straight through our gate. I watched, sick with clarity. At 12:11, he left, smug and unhurried. She came out minutes later, barefoot, hair tied up, carrying a bowl of something. No guilt. No hesitation. That night, I handed her a small wrapped box during dinner. "What's this?" she asked, picking at the ribbon. "A gift," I said softly. "Belated. To say thanks." "Thanks for what?" "For staying," I replied. Inside was her old silver bracelet, the one she claimed to have lost on a hiking trip. He paled. "You remember this?" "Yes." "I didn't know you still had it," she whispered. "I didn't. Not until recently." "Why now?" "Because some things aren't lost," I said. "They're just hidden." She wore it the rest of the evening. Shackle. The next morning, I handed her a manila envelope with the USB drive. "Listen to it after I leave," I said. She blinked, but I offered no explanation. Then I walked out. I waited nearby, watching the clock. At 9:47 she plugged it in. My voice played first, calm but resolute. Then her recorded laughter, her plans, her cruelty. I imagined the bracelet burning on her wrist. At 10:22 she walked out alone. No phone, no jacket. I watched her drift down the street like a ghost. I returned to the house once she was gone. I left printed copies of her messages on her pillow, just enough to shatter her illusions. Then I left my key on the counter and deleted our playlist, leaving only one song. By sunset, I was checked into a cheap motel far from town. I ignored her calls and messages. Finally, at 6:37 p.m., curiosity won. Her last text. "I messed up. I know I did. But it didn't mean what you think. I was just lost. You made everything too quiet, too safe. But I still love you. Can't we try again? Please." That told me everything. She didn't want safety. She craved chaos. So I sent one final message. A voice recording, calm and deliberate. "I hope someday you understand what it means to break something that kept holding you together, even as it cracked. And when silence comes for you, I hope it isn't kind. I hope it sounds like my voice gone." Then I blocked her. That was the last time I ever heard from her directly. But not the last time she tried.